my pretty thingy over my blood sugar sensor today.
I like it.
It's very, very colorful today. Very unusual, but I thought I need some color in my life. They're not the best though. I have the feeling they get when you get sweaty or stuff, when you're much in the sun, they're not holding that good, but for once in a while.
I just put a new sensor on last night, so I'm still using the G6. I've got a couple more sensors before I switch to the G7. So
it's so much better. I'm so sorry to say. I was starting with the G6 and I loved it. It really worked pretty well. And then I changed to the G7 maybe 2 years ago, and it's so much issues. It's so it's getting better. It's getting better, but I had such a hard, frustrating time switching because it disconnects so often. And I had the receiver first. Now I'm using my phone because it's better with phone, actually. The receiver broke down twice, and it's fun. It's fun.
It's so frustrating. When it's supposed to work and it just doesn't. It's so frustrating.
Absolutely. And you kind of also... You what's the word in English? Damn. See, we start streaming and I forget the whole English language. I forgot it in both languages I speak. Even in 3. I mean, you just let it work and check it for you. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, even I don't know the word. Yeah. And if it's not work, it's just terrible. So especially when you're away or stuff. I not always have my extra thingy with me, so it's fun.
Yeah, well, and as much travel as I still do, so when I was driving, I used basal bolus to manage my diabetes. So I was on insulin pens with a long acting and then a fast acting at mealtime. And then since I've been driving and yep, okay. Well, so recently, probably about 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, I got my pilot's license just to fly small airplanes and things like that. I kind of needed a hobby when I was done driving. And I was getting busier because my kids were getting older. I was doing more at the house, plus the other businesses we own. And so I went to an Omnipod, the tubeless pump. And I really like that. Because it talks to my Dexcom, it boluses when I'm high and suspends if I'm getting low. When I'm working out, playing tennis, or even flying, I can set the target higher. So I don't think it would have worked for me in the race car because of the G-forces and the temperature in a pump, but it works for me now. And I think it's funny, when I was other companies within diabetes, I was always a proponent that there is no one size fits all. You have to figure out the tools that work for what you want to do, right? Because yes. I had a conversation with the guy who was a football player, and he was like, I couldn't wear a sensor because it would get ripped off my body while I was playing a game.
Yeah,
and I had a conversation with a mountain climber, and he was like, yeah, I had to keep my insulin pens in a thermos with warm water in them to keep them from freezing. Right. Mm-hmm. And all of these different, when you're doing something that, even if it's ordinary or extraordinary, right? You're climbing mountains, driving race cars, playing American football, prima ballerinas, all of that. Or if you're just in an office 9 to 5, and then on the weekends you're playing office kickball or baseball or soccer or whatever, you have to find the tools that work for you, because there is no one size fits all.
Yeah.
I've always been a proponent of that, and I live that in my life.
There was the thing they tried. So I have type 1 diabetes since I was 6. So I started very early. It sounds like it was a choice, but I got it very early.
Right.
I think, so there was 1997. So everything was a bit different back then to actually treat that stuff. And I do think when I was 15 or something, they kind of tried to force me to get a pump. And I was a child you want to force me, I'm out. So it was the wrong way back then, definitely. So that's probably also why I'm still using pants. And also because I had the feeling back then that it cuts my freedom. So it sounds, first of all, wrong, because obviously it gives you more freedom because you're a bit easier to have always the pants with you and stuff. But for me it was so, but I can hide the pan, you know, I can hide it, no one sees it, and the pan everyone would see.
So 100%. And for me it was a little different in that I, like, when you talk about freedom, I totally get that concept and idea, because for me, the idea of a pump when I was driving was actually less freedom and less control, right? I didn't want to be attached to another thing. I already had this sensor on. I was carrying a cell phone, plus I was carrying the receiver, because that's what worked with integrating with the car's data system, went into the race car. And then when I was done driving, I was like, oh, actually, wearing another pump, okay, it's not a big deal, but the freedom of being able to have some, you know, closed loop and some extra management from the pump itself means that I'm free to think about other things instead of about diabetes all the time and my blood sugar all the time. And I totally get, like, the reason I never wanted to do a pump was because I didn't want to be attached to another device. I didn't want to be like, I felt despite continuing to do what I love, right? I felt a little bit constricted. Like, diabetes puts up these guardrails. If you tear them down, excuse me, if you tear them down or figure out how to work around them or not, they exist, right? Like, at least here in the US, the hurdles to become a professional pilot are way higher for people with diabetes health-wise than without. You can't serve in the military. You have to, if you're on insulin, you have to argue with the highway transportation board to be able to drive trucks and semi rigs. And I always, in my medical, had to give them an update on my blood sugar and my control and how it had gone this season, right? So there are all these kind of guardrails that go up, or, you know, boundaries. And if you ignore them and or not ignore them, that's the wrong word, but if you figure out how to overcome them or not, it still takes work, right? So that there is that freedom conversation around that, and limitation conversation, right? Like, I believe you can do anything with a functioning pancreas that you can do with a freeloading pancreas, right? One that doesn't do what it's supposed to, and we have to do it for it. I believe you can do anything. Is it harder? Yes. I will always admit that you have to figure out, and you almost have to be more independent and figure out how to come up with those solutions. And I think there's no one size fits all in diabetes management. I also believe diabetes is a team sport, right? And the team is not just, for me, my race team, right? It's not just a sports team. It was my medical team, my endocrinologist, my diabetes educator, the nutritionist, my fitness trainer, the exercise physiologist I did research with. But almost more importantly than those doctors and nurses were my friends and my family. Like, my friends always joke that their job in life was to keep my head from getting too big so I didn't have to buy new helmets, right? So, like, and this is probably the first time I've ever said this, like, publicly. Internally, my friends all know, but, like, they just decided that I love Hello Kitty. And so anytime it was like Christmas or my birthday, like, for the longest time when I was living in Europe and racing in Europe, I had a Hello Kitty toaster because my friends decided that was how they were going to keep me humble, to make sure that my helmet still fit. And so after I was diagnosed, a lot of times, like, I'd be in a bad mood, very, like, reasonably so. Like, I'd had a bad race or I'd gotten taken out or something like that. And they're like, Charlie, you're grumpy. Is your blood sugar okay? Do you need a cookie? Like,
I know that.
You know, and so, right. And I truly believe that as a team sport, you know, diabetes management takes everybody, right? And I am so lucky. I am really privileged and really fortunate to have a great friend group an incredible wife. We've been together since 2009, but we've been friends since high school, right? Since we were 15 years old, 25 years ago. And so we have a lot of shared history and a lot of shared understanding. And she has always, especially when I was driving full time, was so supportive. She would do so much around the house and make sure that like all I had to think about were the things that only I could think about, right? Like laundry, food, travel, like she could handle all that, you know. And I had a great team. I had a personal manager and business manager and all that. But she would be like, okay, only you can decide what to do with your blood sugar and only you can drive the race car. So those things, everything else, let me think about so you can think about this. Because I don't know how you found it, but diabetes and type 1 especially, I mean, I'm going to comment actually, you were diagnosed at 6, I was diagnosed at 22. So probably very different diagnosis stories, very different like teenage years stories, right? Like I mean,
I was not good with my diabetes. I was not a teen.
Well, and like, I think I was very lucky to get diagnosed later in life because I barely survived teenage years as it was, right? Like I'm still a big nerd, but like in high school, everyone's like, wait, this guy races shopping carts? Like, no, I was racing professional go-karts, but like, they're like, wait, there's shopping carts with an engine? What are you talking about? And I barely survived it as it was without diabetes. So going back as someone who'd gotten diagnosed as a kid I have so much respect for that. And for your parents, right?
Oh, yeah.
For your family that was around that went through that diagnosis. Like when I was 22, my mom still blamed herself. I think she still does to this day, thinks she did something raising me that caused this.
True.
And I was like, no, Mom, it's like, it's luck of the draw. Like sometimes it's just, you know, the other saying I say is that it was just the hand I was dealt, right? Like I love playing cards and especially with my kids, we play a lot of cards, Uno and different games, Crazy Eights, things like that. And when you're playing cards, like you get these cards, you can't change the cards you're dealt, but you just have to figure out how to play them in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't.
That's it.
And getting diagnosed was just a card I was dealt.
But for me, especially, I think it was very hard to go through my teenage years with that because you'll already be kind of rebellious as a teen. And for me, it was, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want to be responsible. I don't want to take any stuff for it. And it was not good. And I actually also have some, I mean, they're still discussing, my doctor's still discussing if it's from the diabetes or not, because I lost a lot of my eyesight and blah. So I also had a thrombosis in my one eye, so it's like my diabetologist says, no, it's not from the diabetes. My eye care doctor is, but where it's coming from, and I'm standing in between, and so I have it. We don't need to discuss this. It's there. Can we just work with it? So
yeah, but and I understand, and I think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so. But it's also still a lucky thing. So I know another person who also got diagnosed quite early, and he was way worse than me, and he has nothing. So it's also still a lucky thing. What you get in with the time goes by, or if you even get anything. So I have another German girl on Instagram. She has eyes and other organs who are damaged by now, and I'm thinking, so I'm quite lucky. So yeah, I have this with the eyes. Sure, it's limiting. I can't drive a car anymore. Blah blah blah. It's stupid, but I have it not that bad as some others. So I just try to live with it. And as I was 6, I wanted to say that because, as you mentioned, my parents. So I do think my dad kind of make it very easy to himself. Like, I don't inject her or something. I keep myself out of that. And so I do think the whole praise goes to my mom, especially as I was diagnosed. It was injecting in the morning and the evening, and then I had specific times to eat specific stuff. So that was the first 5, 6, 7 years of my diabetes life. Like, I think 7 a.m. was the first, then 9 a.m. or 10 a.m., I don't know, 12, and then it just goes on, and 8 p.m. was the latest. So, and I'm not sure how my mom every morning went to me, even on the weekends, even on Sundays, even on vacation, and tried 7 a.m. to put something in me. And I was falling asleep while eating. So I was not an easy thing or an easy child with that. But I have no clue how she managed that. But I think she had it way harder than me. So I was just a kid. I just lived. I just lived on. So for me, the real problem came with teenage years.
And I think that's so true. But I also think that being a teenager and managing this can be really hard for parents and for people with diabetes, for sure. And on the other side of that, on the flip side of that coin, is the fact that because you went through formative years as a teenager and as a young adult, as a kid, managing this condition, right? Because as you grow up, you get more responsibility, you do more by yourself, you inject yourself, you do all of that management yourself. When it's time to be like a real adult and go get a job, you're used to extra responsibility. You're used to being extra, like, additionally self-sufficient and problem solving. And I see so many. I was having a conversation just 2 weekends ago now with a family who, they have 2 sons, and one of the sons, the older son, got diagnosed with type 1 back in May, so just 3 months ago. And they went and got the antibodies test done on his brother, and his brother shows the antibodies but does not show diabetes yet, right? He's not expressed. And so they are like really worried about, and 3 months in, they're still, I remember 3 months in, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? It was so early on in my education and management. And I told him this. I said, look, you will look back a year from now and be like, oh, I can't believe those were the questions we were asking. I can't believe that was what we were doing. But I tried to give the mom some confidence and say, look, he will blow you away. He will impress you. I said, anytime, my wife and I own a jewelry store. So if someone comes and applies for a job and has diabetes and is in their 20s, I think a lot of employers think, oh, they're going to have to manage their health. This is a complication. Like, I don't want to deal with that. So it's almost like a reduction in their value. To me, what I see with people who successfully manage diabetes is that they're more valuable because they're more used to doing harder things as teenagers and as young adults, and it pays off in their problem solving, and it pays off in their work ethic, and it pays off. And so inevitably, and I'm probably a little biased being a member of that cool kids club and that diabetes community myself, but also I'm like, more power to you. I survived it. I thrived with it. You're surviving with it. You're thriving. Let's go. Like, the more people with diabetes that get together and solve the world's problems, the better, in my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's also getting easier treatable. I mean, it's still mostly a stupid illness to have, and I don't want to talk anything beautiful, but I do think what I used to from when I started to go to today, it changed so much, and it's gotten so much better in life quality, especially because back then, as I said, I needed specific time, specific food. Doesn't matter if I wanted to eat, if I not wanted to eat, if I wanted to more. It was not a discussion. I needed to eat that. And it was like you created your life around that. So, and today you can actually take your diabetes into your life, which you want to live. You probably need to work out stuff. That's not the question. You definitely need to adjust stuff because it's not one-to-one doable. It's just not possible. But you can make it so much easier nowadays to live with it and to work it into your life as you want to live your life. So I think seeing that from when I started is just crazy, because it just shows how much we are able to improve, and who knows where we are in 10, 15, 20 years from now on. So this is just incredible in my opinion. So yeah.
And I think it's not just the insulins, it's not just the sensing technologies, the glucometers, it's the awareness and the understanding from people in general. I mean, I remember it was beginning of 2008, so more than a decade after you were diagnosed, and I was flying transcontinental, so I was going from LA, I think, to London. And overnight, I had to take an evening shot. And so I'm on the plane, finished dinner, getting ready to go to sleep, and pull my insulin pen out. And I realize that most of the plane's asleep, right? But there's a little boy, like I must have been 10 years old or so, sitting in the aisle across from me. And he looked terrified that I had this insulin pen, right? That I had this needle out. And I think now people wouldn't even think twice, but not just here in the US, at least the rise of the GLP-1s, but people, like if I have my sensor on my arm or I'm at the swimming pool and I have my shirt off or whatever, people look and don't ask about my sensor or my pump anymore. They go, oh, that's what that is. Oh, that's what that is. And one of the big upsides for that understanding, that sort of global consciousness of diabetes and diabetes management, is I think as a human race, we are probably healthier because more people go, hey, I'm going to the bathroom a lot. Like, I've lost a lot of weight. Didn't I hear that has something to do with diabetes? Where when that was happening to me, I had no understanding of it, right? I had, here in the US, the joke was, in the South, especially when people had diabetes, and often they were talking about type 2, they would say, oh, they have the sugar, right? And it's like, oh, you don't talk about it, right? This is taboo. Like we don't talk about that. And I think, I hold personally true that the better other people understand the challenges you and I go through on a daily basis, that the challenges with people with type 2 diabetes, as that disease state develops later in life, hopefully later in life, and continues to progress, what changes that means. And I think, I truly believe the world is a better place if we can, and this is a much higher philosophical point, but if we can understand what each other as people are going through just a little bit better, right? If, if you can understand, oh, they have to take insulin, either a shot or a sensor, they always have something on them. Man, that'd be tough. Like maybe I'll cut them a break if they're kind of a jerk because their blood sugar's out of whack, right? Maybe I'll ask if they need
it's 24/7. It's it's forever.
I've got a great point on this. So my endocrinologist, I think she's dynamite. I absolutely love her. She's a former president of the American Diabetes Association. She's treated, I joke that she's won an IndyCar race. She's won Olympic medals. She's successfully argued in front of the IOC. She's been in the Academy for like Hollywood. She's amazing. And the best thing about her is she is an incredible scientist with a great bedside manner. Like she knows the science and the data through and through. And she knows what perfect looks like. And she knows humans aren't perfect, right? It takes both of those, right?
Yes.
I have to know how all of the details to treat my patient, and I have to understand my patient's a person and they're not data. And I asked her once, I said, look, Dr. Peters, I said, why is it that everybody in diabetes is so nice and seems to care so much? And she said, Charlie, we're not ER cardiac surgeons. We don't come in at the last minute, crack chest, start hearts, save lives. We fight this disease with our patients every moment of every day, every meal, every activity, every travel, every sleep. We are fighting them. And if we do our jobs and give them the information and treat them appropriately for what they want to do in life, there is nothing to show for it. Nothing except a normal, healthy life. And that means it comes as a labor of love. There has to be a level of empathy and caring and love for people within. And I saw it not just in doctors and nurses, but in sales reps for pharmaceuticals and device manufacturers and fundraisers, right? People who volunteer at the American Diabetes Association, Breakthrough T1D, all of these different organizations that work to support people all over the world with diabetes and fund research. They just care, right?
Yeah.
They like, it is truly a labor of love. And I see that all the time.
Absolutely. And you just can't break people with too much perfectionism. So, and what I learned is you can do exactly the same 2 days or 3 days in a row, and the diabetes will still do different things. So it is sometimes just happening. So it's just doing its thing. So I have also a very great diabetologist. So
you also have a great.
She is super shady. This is maybe my own complaint. So you're just going there and being there for 2-3 hours because she just needs to talk with everyone. So it just takes a long time. But she is so on time. She is so interested. She's always going to the US to all those diabetic meetings and stuff to learn the new stuff. And she is super, super good. And I think I have her since I was late teen. So she knows me for a while now, so probably 16, 17 years I'm there with her. So she's great, and you need those people, because otherwise, if you have something like that and you have a very bad doctor, and I had a lot in my life already, you will probably just close off or shut down, and this is not helpful. So finding someone who is working with you and not against you is so important. And also, like you say, just see that we are still human and we can't be perfect. It's just not possible, especially with diabetes. It's just sometimes it's just doing it because it's 2 degrees too hot, or I don't know, I slept wrong or bad or whatever. It's just you can go through it very well, but there will always be something that will throw you off the cliff, and you're just sitting there and thinking, I have this since 30 years. I have no clue what happened. This is just happening. It's totally normal. And I see this sometimes with I see, as lead as Germany, I'm not sure if this is for you also, but I see in Germany a lot of young kids diagnosed with type 1 lately. So 4 or 5 years. Old, and some of the parents are really so controlling, where I think, let the kid breathe. The kid needs to grow into it and also develop their own knowledge and their own basic and routines to work through it, because you will not be there forever. You need to raise the confidence in your kid to be able to work with it, because when there was also a thing when I went to school. I mean, there were no one trained there. I was on myself with 7 years. So I just had it for 1 year or even less. I'm not sure yet. So you need to raise your kid with confidence so it can do the stuff if it needs to. Obviously, you need to be there still to overlook your kid. I mean, it's still your kid. It's still not a grown adult or whatever, but the kid needs to learn to grow into their diabetes and how it works, and how to learn what the signs and symptoms of the body means. So like, everyone has a very different level of under sugar and high sugar, what they feel. So when I sometimes describe my symptoms, someone is, oh, that's the total way around for me. And I'm so, yeah, this is what it's also the thing. Or like I was remembering the line of how the blood sugar and insulin works. For me, it was totally one time flipped. So my first doctor was so, I don't understand that. That's not how it works. And I was so, yeah, sorry, my body is doing it. So can we maybe do something with it? So it's just crazy.
And it's funny because I always make the joke that my dad's an engineer, designed race cars. My mom's a mathematician. So I have a strong grounding in math and numbers.
That not works.
And I would have gone to college for engineering. And in the rest of my world, 1 + 1 = 2. In diabetes, sometimes 1 + 1 = banana.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It just does not make sense. Yeah. Well, do you have any questions from your viewers on the chat or anything like that we should get to? Anything else you want to talk about? Racing, anything like that? I just want to make sure we acknowledge that, because you and I could probably talk life with diabetes for hours.
I actually warned them beforehand because I was really that they have normally plenty of time to ask questions, and this was so like this time I'm first and you second, Chad. So, because I do think this is also great to just Chad, also please ask your questions. I saw not a question, but someone or Marcus wanted to know, it's so on short it adds routine that maybe isn't there otherwise. So that was him trying probably to put it in a short form.
And I think one of the reasons why I maybe didn't struggle with my diagnosis and my diabetes management early on in my journey with type 1 as much as maybe other people do, I think there are kind of 2 or 3 factors. The first one being I was older, right? I was 22. I had gone through teenage years. I had sort of had a plan. 2, I had a career that I was working towards. I loved racing. I would have done anything to figure out how to manage my diabetes to get back in a race car. And 3, because I had that career mindset, that goal, and that dream, I was already very disciplined. And so that routine that I had built as an athlete with good nutrition, right? I didn't smoke. I didn't drink excessively. I was already pretty fit. I had a trainer. I was understood that taking care of my body and working out was what I was just what I had to do to keep chasing my racing dream. When I got diagnosed, I just applied that same discipline, that same routine, that same mentality to my diabetes management. And that really helped jumpstart my learning curve, right? Accelerate my understanding of how my body worked. I mean, I don't have it on a bookshelf in here. It's somewhere in here in my office, the mess that is my office. I have a binder with all of my glucose monitor graphs, my food logs, and my insulin logs from the first years after I was diagnosed. Not weeks, not months, but years. And then it became digital, and then it got to a point where I didn't need that to keep going, but I still have those blood sugar logs. And I had my heart rate data from workouts that I would put alongside them. And it's like, okay, well, if I didn't eat enough complex carbs and enough protein, and I went and did a long endurance bike ride or run or weight training session, my blood sugar would go low. Okay, what did I learn from that? Just like every lap we do on the racetrack in a race car, I go review. I work with my engineer and driver coaches and things like that. How do I get better every time we go out of pit lane? Every time something came up in my diabetes management, I was learning how to get better and wanting to learn on how to get better.
Absolutely. Okay, we got questions. So it will probably go a bit mixed through everything now, but this is fine. So Sam was asking, did you ever second guess being able to be a racer after your diagnosis?
Yes. The easy answer to that question, if I ever second guessed being a racing driver, was yes, because there was no one I could call. Right? There was nobody that I could ask, how do I do this? Like, I didn't know if the medical boards and the licensing boards would give me a license. I didn't know if they would ever clear me. I didn't know what their bar was because I was the first in a lot of this.
Yeah.
There was never, okay, your average has to be this, or your number of lows in a year can't be more than this. This is what we need, right? I had to figure that out, and I set my own bar. I think partly as a competitor, partly as an engineer's son, partly being motivated. I set the bar way up here. And then when I went to the medical boards and licensing with the medical boards, and I said, hey, this is what I know. This is what I do. This is my backup plan. This is the backup plan to the backup plan. And if none of that works, I'm responsible enough, and I'll tell you now that I'll stop so I don't endanger any other driver. They said, you know more about your diabetes than we could ever hope to. And that's when I started to believe that I could do it. That's when I really thought, okay, like, and I don't think anyone would have ever, I don't think anyone would have blamed me if I hung my helmet up after getting diagnosed and said, I got diagnosed with diabetes. No one's done this before. Yeah, I'm out, right? I had a good run, but time to go get a real job. Maybe go back to college, find a desk job somewhere. But I knew how much I loved driving. I knew how much I loved racing. I mean, life starts to make sense at 200 miles an hour, at 300 kilometers an hour, right? Like, being at the racetrack. I was at a racetrack this past weekend working. I now do a lot of work in race control here in the U.S. So race director, stewards, officiating, things like that. And being at the racetrack is so familiar. I grew up watching it. I was born in England because my dad was a design engineer at McLaren in Formula One. We lived in Italy when he was at Ferrari. My family and I, my sister, my mom, my dad, went to Silverstone when my dad was working at McLaren. So and then growing up in karting and then race cars, it all feels very familiar at the racetrack. And I wasn't willing to let something like getting diagnosed with diabetes get in the way of that. I think I was very lucky that I had fallen so far in love with racing when I was diagnosed that I second guessed it, yes, but not long enough to make a difference.
Not to give
because
up.
I loved it too much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Racetrack is life. I mean, I'm not a driver, but racetrack is just, it just feels home. So I'm just a sim
one
racer.
Of my favorite. Well, still, yeah, but one of my favorite quotes is from Steve McQueen in the movie Le Mans. He says, racing is life. Everything before and after is just waiting.
Yes, that's true. So,
yeah.
I mean, I felt...
Great question, Sam. Thank you.
I fell quite early in love with racing. I mean, for us, it was mostly just Sunday Formula One, like my dad. And then I found Champ Car, as I said a bit earlier. I was obsessed with Champ Car. So it was absolutely crazy. So racing is just the best thing in the world. I mean, nowadays I just do sim racing, but this is also quite good. So I'm pretty sure there will be.
Yeah, well, so when you were following Champ Car, who did you have a favorite driver, favorite team?
Sebastian
Who were your people?
Sebastian Bourdais was my favorite. But I also was, oh my god, I need to tell you that. I'm not sure, Chad, if you... I mean, Chad, you know that I'm a big Kimi Räikkönen fan, but I'm not sure if I ever shared on stream that I had a poster on my wall from Kimi. So I'm not sure I shared that. And
wait,
also...
I have to ask. Was the poster of Kimi on your wall with him sitting on his yacht after he'd crashed out of Monaco with his suit down, sitting there having a beverage?
It should have, but no, it was a portrait picture, kind of, like, that was on my wall.
I love
That
that.
was,
Leave me alone. I
and
know what I'm
now,
doing.
yes, and now I'm a big Pato Award fan. So
Ah, Pato's a good cat.
yes,
I I appreciate him.
he's
He's a
great.
really good guy. Yeah, yeah. Well, if you ever make it to North America to an IndyCar race, let me know. I'll make sure to introduce you to Pato.
Absolutely. I mean, plans are there, so I try. I try. I
Awesome.
hold you to that. I have your mail address.
No problem. You have your email. You have my email. Let me know. Um,
Yes.
even if I'm not at the racetrack, I'll make sure I make the right introductions for you.
Yes. I take you to that. So,
All right. What
Phil, I
else?
come
Any other
over.
questions? What do you got?
Yes, I mean, you kind of answered it beforehand, but just to fulfill my question job, if you had to do something different, what would it, what would you have chosen to do?
Well, so that was always the thing in school. My parents, when I was racing go-karts through high school, that 14 to 18-year-old window here in the US, I was racing go-karts and then started racing cars when I got my driver's license at 16. And my parents said you have to get really good grades at school to be able to go to the racetrack, because if driving doesn't work out, we want to make sure you can go to college and get a real job. And if I couldn't have driven race cars and fulfilled my dream as a racing driver, I always wanted to go to college and engineer race cars, design race cars like my dad had.
That's great.
I'd fallen in love with racing. I'd fallen in love with the racetrack. And if I couldn't drive, I wanted to be there engineering, working on the design side, being a part of a team. And actually, this is kind of an aside to that question, but one of the things that, I talked about diabetes being a team sport. I think as racing in general is much more of a team sport than people understand.
Oh, yes.
For a lot of times you hear about drivers, you hear about, maybe team owners, especially in the Drive to Survive era. You hear about team owners and, and wives and girlfriends, but you don't hear about as much as I think you should. The engineers, the mechanics, the truck drivers, the support staff, the PR representatives, all of those people. When you work in a great team like that, it is so much fun to go to work. Like driving a race car is a lot of fun, but it's fun to go to autograph sessions when you've got a good team around you. It's fun to go to engineering meetings and recap when the race weekend went totally wrong when you've got a good team around you.
Yeah.
And I've seen that now, like, since I haven't driven a race car in almost 5 years now, and working in race control and in officiating, when I'm in a room with a team that works so well together. I mean, this past weekend, great example, like we were clicking. Just like the way race control a lot of times works is it's kind of periods of calm punctuated by total chaos and then back to calm, right? Like racing, you're like, okay, everything's good. Watching, yep, no weather, no this, no that. Okay. Between pit stops, like this, that, and the other. And then corner marshal is like, okay, we got a car on the wall. And it's like, boom, 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 boom. Everything, it goes a million miles an hour. You get it cleaned up, you go back to green, and then you're back to, okay, calm again. And when it goes from that period of calm to that total chaos is when people really thrive, because everyone knows their job. And when they take care of their job, they know everyone else's job and can help pull weight when it's like, they talk about a house of cards, right? Or, the sentiment that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And that happens in race teams. I think that happens in offices and business culture a lot more than people give it credit for. It happens so much in race control. I see it to this day. Like, if we're waiting on someone, the whole room is waiting on someone. But that doesn't happen in a good team. And that team sport is so much fun to be a part of. You feel, that joke, 1+1 = 2. When you're a part of a really good team, all of a sudden you get 1+1 = 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see
It's
that.
more than the sum of their parts.
I also see this actually when I worked a lot with especially young girls in motorsport, and how often it is really a thing about having a good team or not, how they perform also. So if they not feel not home, but if they not feel accepted and everything, then you also see that their performance goes down. So this is absolutely underestimated topic of motorsport. Also, if you don't have mechanics, you can't drive the car because the car is not ready. So if you can't do as a driver everything, you also as a driver can't change the tires or whatever in a race. So it is absolutely a team sport. But yeah, I think a lot of people are more focused on the driver than everything else around. So
and in racing, you literally can't start the car without a team of mechanics and engineers. And
yes,
you know, it's like I really think to this day, I mean, today is 13 years to the day since I won my IndyCar race at Mid Ohio. And when we're done, I'm going to text my race engineer, who is now Scott Dixon's race engineer at Ganassi and has won Indy 500s with Marcus Ericsson, Dario Franchitti, Scott Dixon. He has won endurance championships with their prototypes. He was part of a team where we won the 24 hours of Daytona. Like, and I'm going to text him and be like, yeah, 13 years ago, we had a pretty good day at the office. That was fun. You know, like, because those bonds last forever.
absolutely. Also, this is kind of good for the next question because that's kind of taking over. What would you say is your biggest achievement in racing during your whole career? He means that everyone else thinks is the biggest achievement might not be what the person consider to be the biggest one. So I think that's a cool question or a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question because I think most people would say, okay, winning at Mid Ohio was a great achievement. Absolutely, first driver with diabetes to win an IndyCar race, and the best part is we won it by going fast. Like we did one extra pit stop and did qualifying laps all afternoon. It was so much fun. Being a part of a team that won the 24 hours at Daytona, that was an incredible achievement. Have a really nice watch from that, but for me, I think still to this day, one of the biggest achievements, or probably the biggest achievement, was starting and finishing my first Indy 500, because nobody had done it, right? In over 100 years, or in a 100-year history, I was the first driver with type 1 diabetes to race the Indy 500, at least first that told anyone about it and controlled it. In fact, there was a story of a driver, and I want to say it was in the 70s, and he didn't tell anyone he had been diagnosed with diabetes and was sitting around in the garages and had a hypoglycemic event. And one of the race officials happened to be walking by and saw it, and so they wouldn't let him race. And in fact, all the other drivers, he was a very popular figure in the garages, and they said they were going to boycott the race if the officials wouldn't let him race because of his diabetes. And he stopped that and said, this race is bigger than just me and my medical condition. You guys have to race. But the fact that so many years later in 2011, I could go out my first year, finish the race, and then a few years later, finish third and fifth, be leading it when an engine blew up, right? Be competitive at the Indianapolis 500, have 10 Indy 500 starts under my belt. Like, I heard, and I can't remember, I think there have been 580, I'll have to Google it, but 580 people who have driven in the Indianapolis 500 since the first Indy 500 in 1911.
That's crazy.
And I mean, that's a terribly small number. There are 8 billion people on Earth today.
Yes.
And so to be a part of that class and that group, like, and there's a much smaller number, much smaller number of people who have driven in the Indy 500 who have type 1 diabetes. I mean, there's two that I know of.
Two, yeah.
Connor Daly.
Connor Daly, yeah. More, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know more racing drivers with type 1 diabetes. I have no clue if in Europe is someone racing it, actually. Probably would just,
There
no one knows.
is. There's an Australian driver, and he talks about it. He's talked about it publicly, so I can talk about it. But I think he was in Formula 3 or Formula 2 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a young go-kart driver in Canada. But there have been a few here and there, and I really think the technology's for management's gotten better than ever before. We talked about the tools getting better, and I think now it's just better. Like, people wear glucose monitors for like biohacking and stress management and like figuring out if they're sensitive to foods and allergic to things.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I heard that.
I remember my first sensor. It was a 7-day sensor, and you stuck it on, and then you injected the needle and then withdrew the cover and left the wire in. And it was awful.
I
It was
believe
so
that.
bad.
Luckily, I not did that.
And now it's like stick on, hit a button, and it injects, and you are left with the sensor. It's like one button, and
it's the easiest thing to do. Yes.
But you hear back from like 75 years ago, people being like, yeah, I had to boil my syringes and I would clean them out by running string through the middle of them.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, it's crazy. But they
I
managed.
still hate needles. Yeah, they managed and thrived. And
you also got those messages. Yeah. I could never. I hate needles, and I'm always standing in front of them. So yeah, what should I do? Die? I mean, there is no. Yeah. I need to.
And I look at them and say, I hate needles too, and it's what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I can still hate needles and take care of my diabetes.
Absolutely.
Like, anytime I have to give blood for blood work or whatever, I'm like, I can't look. It makes me faint.
I'm easy. Like, I'm really, even looking really them. I'm even watching them when they do that. So yeah, here, have fun.
I can't do. Not for me. Not for me.
That's totally fine. So Phil, also one of our Americans in chat, by the way, has another question, and it's Ganassi or Foyt?
So I drove for Chip Ganassi Racing for a lot of years. I drove for AJ Foyt for a couple of years. I also drove for Carlin Motorsports for 2 years when they were in IndyCar. And I drove for Trevor Carlin in British Formula 3. So coming back and running with him in IndyCar was a lot of fun. Chip Ganassi Racing is a powerhouse, right? It is. They've been around, they've won 500 races. I was a part of that. They've won so many championships. I, was part of a team that helped Scott Dixon win a championship and was around when Dario won an Indy 500. The processes, the budgets, the people are a huge asset at Chip Ganassi Racing. One of Chip's real sentiments is have the right people in the right job. And if you have the right person in the right job, keep them there, do what you can to keep them in your organization, and let them do their job. And they do it really well.
Oh, yes.
Driving for a legend like AJ Foyt, like the fact that I have AJ Foyt's phone number in my phone, still I have to pinch myself. Right? The old man is
great, isn't it?
I mean, he's a powerhouse, right? Like, he's still he'll still drive his tractor and his bulldozer around his ranch in West Texas. Like, and not only that, but his son Larry Foyt, who runs the team, I have so much time for. I really, really enjoyed the time there. We didn't have the success we wanted. Sometimes I think that the alchemy and the chemistry of success in motorsports takes some special sauce that not everyone knows. Sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's, who knows, personalities. We just didn't quite get the job done there. But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed working with those guys, working with Larry, listening to AJ's stories, learning from AJ's stories. Like, it was a different era. Like, there's the joke, back when drivers were fat and tires were skinny, and now tires are fat and drivers are skinny. So it's like AJ came from that the wildest statistic in my mind about the Indianapolis 500 and AJ Foyt. AJ Foyt won 4 Indy 500s, 2 with the engine in front of him in the Roadster era, and 2 with the engine behind him. Like, paradigm shifting types of race car, and the man won in both multiple times. And it is not easy to win at the Indy 500.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. But it's just showing how good someone is as a driver also, to also adapt, because it's a whole different driving style. So it's just absolutely crazy and super cool to see, though.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks, Phil. That was a great question.
Okay, the next question is, what is the best advice you ever got?
This one comes from my parents. The best advice I ever got is, if you love what you do, you'll never feel like you work a day in your life. That's not to say it won't be hard work, but if you truly enjoy it and it's a passion, you won't dread getting up and going to work, because there's a part of you that without it won't feel alive. And I was lucky enough to do that as a racing driver. I mean, like I said, life makes sense at 200 miles an hour.
That's what I do here, though. I burn for that. So it's just great if you find the things. It just not even need to be one thing. It can also be several things you burn for in life. What makes you go out of bed in the morning? What charges you up? I mean, my chat knows I was super anxious before the chat, because I'm always anxious, because I'm always afraid something's not working. I don't like the person. And it never happened. And over 3 years I'm doing those chats. It's never happened, but I'm still super anxious. But you still do it, because I know as soon as I'm in here that I do what I love, and I just love those chats. And it's a bit different than normal interviews normally goes. So we definitely have a different structure, and also the questions sometimes are a bit weirder. They are behaving today so far, so I don't promise anything, but it's just, there will be one question coming, though. We ask this everyone, so you also need to go through that. But this is just where shortly before I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, why I'm doing that, why I'm doing that, why I'm doing that. And as soon as it starts, I'm so, that's why I'm doing that. I know. It's just, you just need to find the thing that is worth it to get out of bed, and you just do it and work for it. I mean, obviously not everything is easy, and this will not ever a straight line up. It will always go down and straight up again and down again. This is just totally normal, and probably too many people just giving up too early. And this is what at the end kind of describes a person, if they still push through, even it's the 5th setback or whatever. You still try and you still work for it, and nothing is easy in life. So you always need to work for what you want. So this is probably the best thing that can happen in your life. So.
Well, I probably have about 5 minutes left, if that's okay for you and your team. I got about 5 minutes before I've got to get to my next appointment. But
we're gonna go.
Any other questions? I know you got the one.
The one.
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, the one question we always ask is pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
For my whole life, it was a heavy no. Heavy no.
I think the no is
recently, my answer is going to be a yes.
Ooh.
Pineapple, ham, good Hawaiian on a thin crust, Italian style pizza. I'll take it. It's not my favorite, but it's a yes.
We take the yes. Chat is just exploding with yes and no. They're so divided in this question. I just love it. To explain that.
I got another one. I've got one for your chat. Is a hot dog, and this is a very American question, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Chad, is it?
You put a hot dog in a bun.
It's a different.
Is it a sandwich? Because
no.
a sub sandwich. Mostly
we have
knows.
no.
It's anyone going with it.
It's yes. It's obviously a sandwich. Yes. So we have
Meat between bread.
They not. They're not one here in this question. It breaks my brain.
I feel like it's I feel like it's the same thought process as if a tree falls in the forest and no one's there to hear it. Does it make noise?
Yes, true. Counter question, is a hamburger sandwich?
A hamburger, yes. Meat or bread, meat, bread,
Yeah.
right? That's a sandwich.
The opening is at the top, it's not a sandwich.
So like a Philly cheesesteak is not a sandwich. You Google Philly cheesesteak and it's like a hoagie roll, right? The opening's at the top, right? So not a sandwich?
Yeah, that's what they also saying.
See?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So see what I mean? It like very philosophical, like pineapple on pizza. Okay, that's a taste preference. Hot dog sandwich. Highly debatable.
The first guess was an Italian. That's why this question came up, and now we just asked this everyone because it splits.
What did the Italians say about
no
pineapple on pizza?
No.
Hard no. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That was a big no. But he breaks the spaghetti before he cooks them, so not sure.
Oh.
About this Italian.
Well, that's weird. Yeah.
So
it's maybe a fake Italian.
Yeah, I think so too.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been great.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining. We may come back to that in the future.
Absolutely.
If you want to.
You have my email. Absolutely.
Yes.
The invitation's always open. Let's make it happen again in the future. And
absolutely,
anyone makes it to an IndyCar race, let me know. People can reach out through my website. I know that's how you got a hold of me. Those emails come directly to me, and I will look forward to seeing people at the racetrack and online.
He's very quick in answering, by the way.
Sometimes you caught me on a good day. Like my email inbox is over 200 right now, so it's not great.
Oh, I was good then. Okay, I was good then. But yeah, thanks for being here. We don't hold you.
No worries. So, thank you so much, Vivka.
Yes, that was fun. Thank you very much for joining. Have a great rest of your day.
You're welcome. Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, Chad. Oh, I killed myself. I killed myself. Hi, you hear me still, but I killed my face cam somehow.